Good Monday morning to you, and thanks for joining us here on 90s Watch for a look at your headlines on this Monday, September 13th. Congratulations to the Broncos on their big win yesterday back on Sunday. I'm Chris Bianchi with a look at those top headlines. We'll start things out by taking a look at the weather picture, where today you'll probably notice temperatures just a tick cooler than what we saw back on your Sunday, and certainly compared to what we saw last week when we were in the 90s. But today, we're mainly going to be in the mid-80s. That said, we do have some chances for some widespread showers and storms, especially to the north of I-70 and to the east of I-25. But Denver and the Front Range of the urban corridor could see some of those stronger storms between about 4 and 7 this afternoon. Damaging winds, large hail could be in the picture, so cover up that tender vegetation just in case. Better chance for storms tomorrow. Temperatures noticeably cooler. We'll be in the mid to upper 70s for highs in Denver for your day tomorrow, but then we'll be right back to the heat. And yes, maybe even some of that lousy air quality with highs in the upper 80s to low 90s for much of the remainder of the week and into the upcoming weekend. And by the way, it will stay dry from Wednesday on, though we do have some widespread showers and storms expected around the Front Range for tomorrow. Meantime, we won't be dealing with what some of our friends in Texas and Louisiana could be dealing with as soon as tonight. A slow-moving Tropical Storm Nicholas, could douse parts of the Texas coastline with as much as 15 inches of rain this week. Tropical storm warnings and hurricane watches are in place for, again, much of that Texas coastline ahead of Nicholas, which is expected to move in later tonight and stick around for much of this week. Preparations are underway in Texas and Louisiana ahead of the storm. Now, for the first time in about 2 years, I mentioned that Bronco game yesterday. Well, football fans packed into Denver sports bars yesterday to watch the Broncos play in their NFL opener, and along with, of course, the opening weekend of NFL football across the country. Bars and restaurants appreciated the crowds, but it was difficult since many are short-staffed still from the pandemic. 90s reporter Steve Stager found that the struggles of the last year have also left bars short on a different note.
I love being around the energy, all the people. It's great to be back.
A little slice of normal never felt so good.
There's a real joy to being open and having crowds.
Though Mark Berzins with the Little Pub Company will tell you things are still far from normal.
I've been doing this for 28 years, never had anything like it.
You can't find people to come to work.
Several of our places around town, we can't find enough front of the house staff to get open for lunch and dinners.
At smaller neighborhood bars like DNVR, it's easier to deal with the bigger football crowds.
When we get busy and we lack the staff to serve at the table, we just retreat behind the bar, and it becomes a bit of a walk-up free-for-all. I feel really sorry for my larger scale fellow owners downtown who have these big places.
Big places like Blake Street Tavern.
Oh my God, we've been hit by a tsunami.
Owner Chris Fuselier says they've had some record-breaking days.
This is our busiest regular season Sunday we've ever had.
But the help wanted signs aren't working the way he'd hoped.
We hired 23 people on Monday and Tuesday, trained them this week to get ready for this weekend, and we already lost 9 people.
Even when the money's good, with tips and a higher minimum wage.
Our servers and bartenders are averaging $35 an hour on the weekends.
Despite it all, he says customers are patient.
And they're like, that's fine. You know what? We know you're doing your best.
The shortage doesn't stop at staff.
We're all out of chicken wings. The whole nation is out of chicken wings.
Blake Street's been using a different chicken wing than they usually do for about 3 months. At DNVR, they've turned it into its own job.
I have one guy who pretty much spends his entire week finding chicken wings around Denver, like driving around any place we can find them.
Shortages aside, fans are just happy to be back.
If something comes like a couple minutes late, it's not really a big deal to me. I'm just watching the game.
A nearly 40-year-old murder cold case could be one step closer to being solved today. A 70-year-old man, Alan Lee Phillips, is in Park County Court this morning for a preliminary hearing after being charged in February with the 1982 murders of 21-year-old Annette Schnee and 29-year-old Barbara Oberholzer. Genetic genealogy led to Phillips' arrest. Again, that was back in February, and he's currently being held without bail at the Park County Jail. Airline service is stopped on RTD through September the 21st, so that's a week from tomorrow, as crews work to replace one of the older sections of track on the RTD loop. That's also going to, by the way, force the closure of the 20th and Welton Street station for that same time frame. RTD is advising bus route 43 as an alternative for those of you impacted by that airline closure. Airline service will resume fully on Wednesday, September the 22nd. Again, that's a week from this upcoming Wednesday. Now, September is also National Recovery Month, and we've dedicated this week to be Recovery Week all week long right here on 9 News. Today, Eddie Randall introduces us to the Denver Women's Recovery Treatment Center and the woman who founded it.
5 years ago, it was still a dream.
When I started to think, okay, when I do my place, I'm going to have it be focusing on the gender for women.
A vision that grew in the mind of Holly Wilson, founder and CEO of Denver Women's Recovery.
A focus specifically on that period that's really tricky between residential and real life.
Holly knows exactly what that transition process is like. She lived it in the early parts of her own recovery journey, one she began about 10 years ago.
I noticed I got to a point in my life where I was partying too much and wasn't really achieving the things that I had imagined for myself.
Holly asked herself that same question many in recovery ponder. Why can't I stop?
Well, I had several points where I was like, okay, I should probably scale this back, or this is becoming a problem. But I would then quickly rationalize and justify why it was okay and that it wasn't time yet.
She says she soon realized everything she wasn't achieving in life was tied to alcohol.
That day, I said, no more drinking.
She checked herself into rehab and started doing the work.
What I realized was that by giving myself to recovery, I was able to get so much more than I had expected. I didn't even know how good it could get when I committed to this process. That's when I said, I've got to help other people.
Holly began working as a driver at the same recovery center where she got sober. Then she became a recovery coach.
Shortly after that, I was promoted to being the program manager of kind of the middle level of care to help people launch into life after treatment.
Giving her the idea for Denver Women's Recovery.
We focus on helping women do recovery in real life. We are gender specific and we have a special focus in trauma work. We're very focused on supporting our clients in what they need to do outside of the room, since we are dealing with all the real life stressors. So making sure they're getting to their doctor's appointments, making sure they're getting jobs if they need to get a job, or getting into school.
Every woman has a different story and is on a different path.
It's really important to me that women know you don't have to hit rock bottom to get help. Recovery is about taking away the things that are keeping you from what it is that you really want out of your life. And that's what we focus on here, is what do you want and how can we help you get there?
Holly is using her own experience of the struggle to get better and sharing it with other addicts in hopes they find their own recovery path and pay it forward too.
All the time I have these moments of, this is incredible what we've built as a team here, and I'm so grateful for my recovery too, because I don't think I would have had the tools to put something like this together without my program.
Well, if you're looking for a job quick, here's one potential option for you. UPS is presenting job offers to qualified candidates in 30 minutes or less, as they're hoping to hire about 2,500 extra employees for this upcoming holiday season. Now, that includes semi-truck drivers, driver helpers, package handlers, and personal vehicle drivers. Go to upsjobs.com if you're interested. Now, Larimer Square is a good spot for anybody in downtown Denver looking for a good drink, a good bite to eat, or even just some retail therapy. But there's more than meets the eye. 9 News reporter John Glasgow explains.
In Larimer Square, beneath the banners, the restaurants and shops, below the surface, lives rarely told Denver history.
Denver is where the West came to play, much like today.
Our tour guide is Kevin Rucker, a historian at MSU Denver.
Yes, it's a very unique layout that we have down here.
We're in the back halls of Green Russell Cocktail Lounge and Russell's Smokehouse on Larimer Street, once a popular underground speakeasy when Colorado went dry.
A lot of these were service tunnels bringing coal and other items like this. But also during Prohibition, this is where all the bootleg liquor was moving.
Tunnels with exclusive entrances reserved for the city's prominent people to get a drink.
You would have like the mayor and the police chief and city councilmen. They would be coming through here. But also miners, cattlemen.
It was amazing.
Jacqueline Bonanno is the owner. She and her husband, Chef Frank Bonanno, named it Green Russell after the first person to strike gold in Colorado. She had no idea what was beyond the walls.
We had to expand the dining room by tearing down these little storage units. And once the storage units were gone, you could see all these different pathways. If there weren't locked doors along the way, I would have been everywhere around here.
Nowadays, you can still get a cocktail at the old bar. The stories, smells, and ambiance are what makes the place special.
When we were doing the plumbing for the smokehouse side, there were horse skeletons, and that's from the Gold Rush era.
You no longer have to go through the back entrance to get in. Just don't expect they only sell pies.
Discretion was always very key to these places.
John Glasgow, 9 News.
And finally, tonight is the 7th annual Taste of the Broncos. It starts at 5:30. It will be on the field at Empower Field at Mile High. It features some of Denver's top chefs and restaurants, and proceeds from the event will go to charity. Attendees will get to mingle with Broncos cheerleaders and alumni, and yes, Miles the mascot. And of course, once again, congrats to the Broncos on that 27-13 win. It was pretty dominating against the New York Giants in their season opener. Of course, they'll be playing again next weekend in Jacksonville against the Jaguars. Thanks for joining us for a look at your top headlines on this Monday, September the 13th. I'm Chris Bianchi, and have a great rest of your day.